guys, welcome back to the channel. As you'll realize, I am in nobody's garage or in my own garage, but today's a special day because I am reviewing something really cool. How about that? That is a 1967 Plymouth Barracuda. It's my buddy's car, and how about we take a tour of this thing? All right, let's check it out. All right, guys. Like I said earlier, this is a 1967 Plymouth Barracuda. Unlike my car, which is a 1965 Plymouth Barracuda, this would be considered a second generation. So mine would be first generation. This is second generation Barracuda. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the little differences, other than the fact that, well, I mean, this thing, look at this thing. This thing's freaking beautiful, you know? But anyway, he actually redid this entire car. It has been essentially redone, but a little bit more modernized. It's set up for handling as well as takeoff. It's more of a pro touring setup, kind of, you know, but it's really just meant to drive, you know, like all cars should be. It's not a trailer queen. It isn't, you know, just parked all the time. This thing drives just like my car, except again, it's pretty much all done. I mean, and let's take a look at this. Let's take a walk around in this vehicle. Wow, look at this thing. Now, a long time ago, I used to have a 1966 Dodge Charger that was a similar color to this, and as you can tell, I'm quite partial to this color. This thing is beautiful. Look at this thing. Wow. Sorry for the bouncing there. I am on my phone, as usual, because, you know, budget. But anyway, here's it. Look at this. Wow. So he just got this done earlier this year and just got it running and driving and everything maybe a month ago. Now, this 67 Barracuda is equipped with a similar V8 to mine. This has a 340 cubic inch engine in it, which is derived from the same family as my 318, 4-barrel, and this one's an automatic like mine, but with slight differences. And this whole model range, this whole generation, is a little bit different than mine in that it's a little bit longer, it's a little bit wider, but essentially uses a lot of the same components and dimensions as the older car did. This was just finally graduating to that special car. So if you'll notice, it looks way different in a lot of ways. It looks similar, but very different. The front end, for example, let's go with that first. This front end here, ooh, my shadow. So the front end here, you got that split grille going on. It looks really cool. Now that front end is meant as an evolution of what mine had going, where there was still like kind of a grille piece in the middle. This has two separate grilles on each side with the inset signal lights, just like the my car, except in this year they started differentiating these bodies from the Valiant, where you remember my car was essentially based on the Valiant with a different roof. This is entirely different body panels for just this car. So this has unique body panels for this model line, which is pretty cool. So they've started kind of becoming their own vehicles. Now we'll go in closer. And look how shiny this thing is. Wow. So that fish right there, they finally started bringing these fishes out. And believe it or not, the fish made an appearance in 66, which is the model year before this. And that's when you started getting the fish logo for the Barracudas. Before it was just a name. Now they started actually doing the fish for these. This still has a thin bumper, so you got a Valiance in the bottom there. And as you can see, completely different body panels. All bespoke for this model. Now, a huge difference from my vehicle to this one, you'll notice, is the window. The rear window on mine comes across, and it has that big bubble glass, you guys remember? And if you don't, you can, you know, go to the link above for the video. But it has a humongous window back there. And they went away from that, still kept that fastback roofline, right? So from the front all the way to the back, same idea, except the window, they shortened it a little bit, made it a little smaller, a little bit more kind of European sportiness, because this is later in the 60s, right? And they kept these haunches. You see the weight kind of coax bottle in a little bit more. It's a little curvier, kind of giving it a little bit more sporty, a little bit more muscle. You know, this one was becoming more of a muscle car than mine was. Mine still wanted to be a European GT car. This was more towards the muscle car demographic. And now you'll notice this fuel door. My fuel door doesn't actually belong in my car. They came off one of these things. So this is when they started introducing this kind of racing style fuel door on these vehicles. We'll walk around to the back. It's got this really nice sail panel back here. The tail lights are right on the corners here. You can't really see it because of the glare, but you got tail lights, and then the backup lights are actually down here, like a Mustang. So backup lights, tail lights, this big old sail panel. Now, these rear ends sort of changed. Even though the car looked exactly the same from 67, 68, and 69, the sail panels changed a little bit. So we had tail lights, right? And then you had the reverse light on the bottom. And I believe 68 to 69, they put the reverse lights up here. And they changed it up a little bit. So it pretty much looks almost the same, except the rear ends, for some reason, they kept changing them, evolving, I guess. It changed for the sake of change, I guess. But, I mean, look at this thing. Overall, this shape lasted for like 3 years, like I stated. And in this generation is when they introduced... Oh, you can see my Fiero back there. In this generation, they introduced the Kuda name that some of you guys might be familiar with. Now, the Kuda is generally known as the 1970 Kuda, right, with the big monster engines and the Hemis and all that stuff. But in reality, that name made its debut in this generation would be the 69 model year. And that thing had a 440 big block engine, right, or I believe it's 7.2, 7.3 liters, huge engine in the front of this thing. And let's just go to the front here and I'll tell you, demonstrate real quick. They had these scoops that would go right here on either side, one over there, one over here, and some black stripes. And so that would be, it would have the name Kuda on there. And that was the first Kuda, the first kind of muscle car version of this. And those things were insane. They were front heavy, you know, they were set up pretty cool. They were pretty much burnout monsters, which is really cool, but they didn't really perform that well. It was just more like a bragging rights type thing, right? But anyway, so let's go to the hood over here since I showed you that already. And you see that 340S. Now, this vehicle in particular is sort of a Franken-Kuda. Now, the S stands for Sport, or Formula S, you will, in this model year. Now, the Formula S for this car was essentially like an upgrade package, right? You got your basic car, which you could actually get these with Snap 6s, by the way, just like my car. And then you moved up to the V8, which is what this originally was. And then you move up to the S, which had the bigger engine, the 340, which was introduced in 68. And then you had, you could get a 4-speed stick shift or a 3-speed automatic, front disc brakes, because those were still optional, and just more sporty accommodations, right? And the suspension system was sportier as well. This vehicle has been upgraded to the 340 cubic inch engine, or 5.4 liters, I believe it is. And the transmission is still an automatic, just like mine, except this one has got a column shifter. I'll show you what that is in a second here. So look at this beautiful interior. Wow. So you see that stick over there on the side? That's the shifter for the automatic transmission. Ooh, glare. Okay, lens flares. So that's the interior. We'll go over the interior in a minute, but just wanted to cover the exterior. So like I said, you can see sort of, let's back up a little bit, the similar shape to my 65 Plymouth Barracuda, but not quite the same. And like I said, this was about 2 inches longer, about 1.5 inches wider than my car overall, but it was still a fairly small car for the time. These were compact sports cars, essentially, or compact cars. Oh yes, for upgrades on this car, he has upgraded the front end to disc. Like I said, the wheels are now 16-inch wheels, so I believe they're 16 by 9 in the back, 16 by 8 in the front. The reason he has these wheels is mostly for tire options. Like I said earlier, he likes to drive these, and he likes to drive this thing really, really, like, I mean, he like drive, you know, like a good turning corners, all that good stuff, not just straight line performance. He likes to drive them like you should. And so the tires, you know, they play a huge role in handling. And so he got these bigger wheels that, oh no, that was anyway, he got these bigger wheels that allow for a better selection of tires to be able to drive, and, you know, for future reference, just for you, so you guys, what I mean by that is I have 14s, or I used to have 14 wheels, size wheels on my car, and the pair, or at least the set of wheels for something like that, is about $500, and there's no selection except this one brand, and they're not very good for performance. They're just for a look. And so if you want to drive your car and have good performance out of them, you're going to have to go to something different. So that's what he did, you know, kind of that feel. Okay, so the interior on this thing. So let's check this out. Look at this. So he did redo the interior. Now the interior of this car used to be blue, just like it is now, except it was, and you can't really see it here, but it was a darker shade of blue. I don't know if you can see that. See, there we go. right? It kind of looks almost dark, like a black. That's actually blue with this wood insert here. He has since gone to this kind of blue, which is like a nicer kind of viper blue. It's really nice. You can see like kind of a purple hue coming off of it. It's really cool. He went with the wood steering wheel, and like you can see right there, see the selector with the park, reverse, and drive neutral. That's your selector right there. We got our accommodation of gauges, right? Your performance indicator. Now this is really cool. All right, we're going for a Doug DeMuro moment. You see this thing down there? That right there? That is called a performance indicator. Now what that does is pretty funny. These engines, you know, they produce vacuum. All engines produce pretty much a little bit of vacuum unless you're boosted. And so depending on the amount of vacuum you're producing out of the engine tells you the kind of performance you're producing, right? There used to be an old device called the Mileage Master that kind of tried to do the same thing with vacuum, but the opposite. So it's a pretty interesting idea. I mean, other than this, so this was kind of an option here. Other than this, you would get a tachometer in here. So he has the mileage, or sorry, the performance indicator. You got your 4 gauges on the one side here. So, you know, alternator, oil pressure, gas and temp, and then your speedometer over here. So that's pretty simple, pretty basic. And of course, a tachometer can have a performance vehicle without a tachometer. Ooh, glare. Maximum J.J. Abrams over here. So tachometer, like I said. The stereo, it is aftermarket. It's been there for a while now, but it's like an older mod that someone did. Also, see, we got our flashers here. Now this year, in these years, they started implementing the emergency flashers. You got a little separate switch for it up here. You got your lights. You got your little tripometer deal here. They started implementing that at the time. Our wiper switch is down here. See that, right? And then of course our climate control system, or well, lack thereof. We're talking defroster, heater, controls, fan, that kind of good stuff. And of course these seats are actually Pro Car seats off of a Mustang that he had to adapt using special bracketry on the bottom so that they fit. They're not super different the way they bolt, but he had to adapt them a little bit. And he got these because, again, the whole driving experience. These provide better bolster. They look kind of classic and old school, and they provide for a better driving experience overall. You don't want to be sliding around when you take a turn real fast, right? And so we got full headrest and everything. The back seat, much like mine, folds down to reveal that big trunk at the back. So this whole trunk area in there is a lot like mine. It folds down and you get kind of like a station wagon, right? Because remember, back then there was no such thing as a sports wagon, and this is essentially what this was. All right, guys, so real quick, I wanted to show you the function of this seat as opposed to mine. Now mine had a bar that goes to the back here, right? And you pull that bar to fold this down. This, let me bring it around here, has a little deal back here, like a latch. Let me see if I can get you a better image of that. You see that latch right there? That you pull, right? Slide it, and then it brings forward. So a little bit different than mine. And you get this flat panel. Look at that. And if you wanted to, you could lower that back panel. You give it more load space. So this is pretty cool. I mean, like I said, you get a little bit of a wagon action with it. But I don't know. I like it. It's pretty awesome. All right, let's keep going. Look at that letterbox opening for a window. Can't see nothing back there. All right. How about we check out this engine, huh? Let's do it. All right, guys. So let's check out this engine, or this engine bay, and look at that. That right there, my friends. That is a 1970 340 engine. Now 70. Wait a minute. This is 67. Well, originally this car had a 273 in it that he has since upgraded to a different engine. This engine is a 340 cubic inch, like I said earlier, 5.4 liter. And, you know, this was a common upgrade back in the day for these cars. You know, you yank out the old V8, you put in a better V8 in it, and off you go. The transmission itself is also off the same 70 Barracuda. And just to kind of give you a frame of reference, these engines, because of the way they are, because they were trying to do as much flow as possible for these, part of that, ooh, my shadow, is these exhaust manifolds. Now, these special exhaust manifolds, you see how it goes up like that? And then you'll notice this one's way different. Well, the reason for this is to clear a lot of the steering. So these Mopars, the way the steering's set up, and you probably can't see it, but it's way down in there. The steering arm, the steering box, and all that stuff intrudes into the engine bay. And unfortunately, because of that, it obstructs the way the exhaust can actually exit the engine. So because of that, they come up with these interesting ideas and all that good stuff. That's why this brake booster right here sits on sort of a weird pedestal, and it comes up so that to avoid hitting that exhaust manifold, which is all. So in doing one thing, they had to re-engineer a bunch of different stuff, which is pretty funny. The other thing is he did upgrade this car to power brakes. This had manual steering and manual brakes. He upgraded all those things to power. The engine itself has also been upgraded, so it's got a Hughes cam in it. It's been completely redone. It's a bit more oomph than it used to have. And as you can tell, it's not the cleanest thing ever, but I mean, look at this. This thing, he drives it. He takes it everywhere he can. It does have a modern electronic system in there, the ignition right there. And these are pretty funny. So these, for all you Mopar guys, or if you guys don't know, these are Ballard resistors. Now these are crucial if you're running the stock electronics for the Mopar stuff. Well, it was common to have not one, but two in here, just in case that thing went out, because it was notorious for failing. Well, he left them in here kind of as a reminder, you know, funny little, there we go, but he no longer needs them because of this box. Now this box is actually adjustable with an RPM limiter, which is pretty cool. So yeah, modern stuff, or modern-ish stuff in an engine this old. But this thing moves. I mean, I followed him on the way up here, you know, to do the shoot, and this thing runs really good. Runs perfect, and he keeps dialing it in as you do old cars, right? But overall, nothing crazy in here. Basic, simple, fun. And that's the point of these things, right? But all right, you know what? I think that's enough yapping. I think we should go for a drive. What do you guys think? Let's do it. So driving the 1967 Plymouth Barracuda. I mean, what a difference between where I'm at in my car and where this thing's at. This is a good place to kind of gauge what I'm going for eventually, right? Now, obviously, there's been money thrown to this car. This thing's been redone. It's got newish suspension system in it. The paint's all done, as you saw. The interior's all done. This thing's a well-composed car now, much like it would have been from the factory. If not, it handles a lot better than it would have from the factory. And so this is essentially where I'm headed towards at some point, right? So, I mean, it drives great. It's well composed. It's actually surprisingly well balanced considering front engine, rear wheel drive, that kind of stuff. It doesn't feel that bad. It doesn't feel super front heavy like a lot of these cars tend to. So yeah, it's a really, really well handling vehicle. Considering it's you know, a muscle car, so to speak. But this is a really great car, and you gotta understand the mindset behind this vehicle was to make sort of a sports touring type vehicle, right? A little bit more emphasis on the handling, a little bit more emphasis on performance. The old cars, they were a little mushier. They floated a little bit. They were for consumers, normal consumers, where they wanted more of a comfortable ride with a sporty feel to it. This is more about that sporty feel. And so it's gonna handle like it's supposed to. It's gonna, you know, accelerate like it's supposed to. It is still an automatic, but a well done automatic. It downshifts when you want to, you know, it does what you want it to do when you want it to do it. So that's the intent with this car, and I like that. That's where I want to be at some point. I'm having fun with mine right now, but this, I mean, oh man, you cannot fault this. This is wonderfully done. Kudos to the person who built this vehicle, because it's well done. It's going to last them a long time where I intend to be at. And yeah, I mean, I hope you guys like this car. I thought it was really, really cool. Driving, it's just a joy, and it's a completely different feel than mine, you know, where mine kind of takes you to a time period. This is just fun, and it's good to be in, and yeah, it gives you that style of the old school, but it definitely brings it up a notch. And that's another thing about this car, is that it's set up not full-on handling only, not full-on straight line performance where it's monstrous amount of power and it's uncontrollable, and now it's uncomfortable to drive because it's going to overheat in public, or it's going to, you know, it's too much of a bear to drive where there's a pothole or something, and now you need a chiropractor because you drove 10 miles. So you know, this thing's set up for every day. You could use it every day if you really needed to. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have to, hopefully, but if you needed to, you could. And that's, you know, that's the whole point of these things. You're supposed to drive these cars. At least that's my thought, right? I mean, why else do you own a car other than to drive it? Otherwise, it's just a model vehicle, right? But again, like I said, those are my thoughts. What do I know? Those are my thoughts. I think this is awesome. I hope you like the car. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And you know what? Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. This is awesome. I'm telling you, this is amazing. It never gets old. Alright guys, so that's my review of my buddy's 1967 Plymouth Barracuda. Oh wow, I got a different shirt on. I recorded an outro right after the review, but unfortunately all that got erased because reasons. And so I had to re-record it. But anyway, as usual guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for dropping a like and a share. If you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. You know, if you guys like the content that I'm putting up here, I will be continuing on both of these cars. There are some planned things for the Fiero, and we're going to continue on the Barracuda. So follow me on my journey. I'm going to keep reviewing vehicles. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I hope you guys enjoy it, and thank you so much. Once again, Tales from the Junkyard here, saying see you guys next time.